What's up, everybody? AJ from Knights of the Apex here. Super excited to come to you on the launch day of the brand new PSE Omen. Those of you that have been following the channel for some time probably can anticipate why I'm so excited about this bow. We'll get into that in a minute, but before we do, special thank you to Bert Soren and the team over at Sorenex Outdoors for letting me drop by the farm to film that little intro series. If you're not getting your exercise equipment from Sorenex, I can only assume that you hate your body and America. Just kidding. Let's get into the Omen and why I'm so excited and why this is my new favorite bow. So what is this bow? Why is this bow? And why is PSE releasing a bow in July? So for those of you that aren't familiar with the PSE lineup, every 2 years or so, the engineers and the team over at PSE will get together. They'll look at all the technology, all the lessons they've learned over the previous years. They'll sprinkle in a little bit of features exhibiting what's to come. And then they'll answer the question that some of us often have, which is, what if they just made the bow faster? That's what culminates in these bows that come out usually around summer. They're usually 33-inch-ish axle-to-axle bows with a 5.5-inch brace height and some crazy advertised IBO speed rating, which is super cool because in this E2 cam like I'm running, you can get anywhere from 27.5 to 31-inch draw length. And in the S2 cam, you can get anywhere from 24.5 inches all the way up to 28.5 inches. So this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal option for female shooters all the way up to mid and longer draw length shooters that want a little bit of extra speed. Now I've gotten a chance to not only speak to guys at PSE that have shot this bow, but other PSE shooters, and everyone has remarked at how smooth and forgiving this bow is. Not for a speed bow, just as a bow in general. A lot of people over the years have made the mistake of when these bows come out, they see the advertised speed ratings, they see the brace height, and they assume that it's just another speed bow in the traditional sense of the term. And when I say that, what I'm referring to is traditionally speed bows that are boasting these kinds of velocities tend to have very harsh draw cycles, very short valleys. They want to rip the string away from you at full draw. They tend to be very unforgiving, loud, a lot of vibration, and they're just not very fun to shoot. It's one of those things where you either absolutely love it or you absolutely hate it. Not so with the Omen, and it wasn't so with the Expedite or any of this bow's predecessors. I would actually venture to say that this is the smoothest bow in the PSE lineup, and it's actually probably one of the quietest. I've said in the past that PSEs tend to be kind of middle of the pack when it comes to noise and vibration. Not anymore, and not with this bow. This bow is right up there quietness-wise with the best of them, and it's just an absolutely phenomenal shooter. A lot of that has to do with the geometry of this bow. Now, looking at it, when I pulled this thing out of the box, I'm going to be honest, I thought, oh, they shortened the brace height of the XF33. That's how they got the new speeds. And that's what I was expecting this bow to feel like. Just a XF33 that was maybe a little less forgiving. Not the case. This is actually the smoothest bow in PSE's lineup, at least in my estimation. I have this thing set to 70 pounds, 85% let off, and I've mirrored basically my setup that I had on my Expedite from last year, and this is just my favorite bow, bar none, to shoot right now. Now, a lot of that has to do with the new riser and limb design, which is really where a lot of the effort went into this bow. Now, parallel limbs have been all the rage in the industry over the last couple of years with good reason. Parallel limbs give you a lot of advantages, one of them being the ability to lengthen the riser of the bow, which aids in stability, among other things, particularly at full draw. Now, you can take that concept a little too far. There are bow designs out there right now where the limbs are so parallel that when you draw that back, the combination of limb deflection and cams actually brings that axle to axle and that string angle in closer to the riser, which actually negates some of that stability because it makes the bow feel like it's actually a shorter at full draw. In contrast, PSE optimized the riser length and the limb deflection of the Omen so that when you pull this bow back, even though it's a 5.5-inch brace height with the E2 cams, when you pull this bow back, the way this cam tracks as the limbs compress, it's actually tracking back towards the shooter. This limb and riser design in conjunction with the new wide pockets that PSE introduced last year makes for an extremely stable and forgiving bow. And this bow feels just rock solid at full draw. In terms of real world speed, I'm getting about 289 to 290 feet per second out of this 28.5-inch bow set to 69 pounds. Anytime my bow's 69 pounds, I just leave it because I'm terribly immature. I'm getting 289 to 290 feet per second with a 465 grain arrow, which is pretty much exactly what I would expect out of a setup boasting that's the speed rating that it does. That's on par with what I was getting out of my Expedite, which was advertised at 355 feet per second without the speed mods. Feature-wise, everything that was introduced with the XF series and the EVL series over the last couple years are going to carry over to the Omen. You've got your beefed up E2 and S2 cams, sturdier components, wider limb pockets, new riser design, QD sling mounts, double burger buttonhole, new cable guard option, different grip options out there, standard and lower stabilizer mounting options, and the PBS bus tuning system. New for the Omen is going to be the option to run the new core lock system for the Hamskea series of rests. I believe right now the only rest that Hamskea offers is the Epsilon series that uses that. I did not elect to go with the Epsilon on this particular bow. I'm actually running the new QAD R2 integrate rest. Why? Because it's $80 cheaper than either the Epsilon or the QAD with the micro adjust. Now I've found that once I get past the frustration of not having micro adjust when I first set up my bows, it's not like I'm adjusting my rest that often anyway, so I opted to save the $80, but this new R2 rest from QAD is actually pretty sweet for another reason. One of the things QAD introduced with this new rest is when you loosen up your windage and elevation adjustments on here, QAD has a system that keeps the rest under constant tension, which allows you to actually move the fork or move the rest itself with your hand by pressing on it, and you don't have to worry about sliding it all the way one way or the other. I will admit on the windage adjustment, that's super simple, really easy to use. On the elevation, it was a little bit more difficult because you're fighting the finish of the bow, which most bows is pretty rough these days, so you are fighting that a little bit, but really easy to use. A great option if you want something just super streamlined with not a lot of moving parts and nothing to loosen up on you, and you want to save $80. So, but the fact that the Omen is boasting the new core lock option, I think it's one of the first bows to have the ability to do that. So pretty cool, always good to have options. Now overall, I can't say enough about this bow. You guys know how much I loved the Expedite and just how much time I had with this bow. Even though I've shot a couple of bows since this came out, this thing has remained my favorite over the last couple of years, but the Omen is a worthy successor to it. You can see that I pretty much mirrored the setups of the two. I'm running my Arxos. This is still the pre-production sight on here. The new QAD rest, my Quivalizer, which I did have mounted to the higher position, reason being on the Omen, the new lower position has it so that if I mounted the Quivalizer down there, I'd have to really flare it out. I just like how I'm able to keep everything so sucked in tight to the riser by bringing it in on there, and I'm able to get away with just a stubby little 6-inch Vulcan Pro Quattro stabilizer on the back. And then other than that, accessory wise, I am running the knock-on Ultra View grip simply because I'm running that on my XF30 and I wanted to keep things consistent there. But otherwise, you can bet I'll be throwing some Bloodline fibers on here and keeping these stock strings as backups. Now, what makes these types of bows so perfect for me and the type of hunting I do a lot of eastern hunting where I'm either in a tree stand, I'm going to be messing with a tree saddle most likely over the next couple months, but then I also shoot Total Archery Challenge and go out west and shoot with buddies and do stuff occasionally where I'm more out in the open. So having a bow that's kind of more of a crossover setup, like almost like a 3D-ish rig and a hunting rig, really just suits me really well. The 33 inches axle to axle just feels extremely stable. It is nice having like a 30-inch bow like my XF30 that's so small and nimble and easy to get around the woods with, but just I prefer shooting the 33-inch axle to axles. 32 to 33 inches is kind of my sweet spot, and that's exactly where this falls. But with most manufacturers, when you go up to that 33-inch bow or that 34-inch bow, they also increase the brace height to like 6.5, 7 inches sometimes, which is just more forgiveness than I really need. At 28.5 inches, I can get away with a shorter brace height bow like a 5.5-inch bow, and I would prefer to have the speed so I can run a little bit of a mid-weight arrow setup and still get those zippy speeds and that kinetic energy and not have to worry about my pin gaps When I'm hunting, I like setting my pin to just 30 yards, and I know my holds on especially whitetails from everywhere from point blank out to 40 yards. And then if it's past that, one, I'm probably not taking it, but two, I'm gonna use my actual dial to get my pin exactly where I want it to anyway. So I like having a setup that shoots around 285 to 295 feet per second. That's kind of the sweet spot for me, and that's exactly where this bow is, and it just does everything that I need it to do, and I can't wait to get this thing on the road and in the stand and out in the woods and shoot this thing more and hopefully get some blood on it in the next couple of months. So super stoked for this bow. Excited that I can finally share this with everybody. I've been sitting on this for a couple of weeks now, just absolutely antsy to share this with you guys, and could not be happier with how this came out. It is a worthy successor to the Expedite, which you guys know coming from me as high a praise as I can possibly give. I rarely use superlatives, but I will in this case. That is my favorite bow to date. So if you get a chance, definitely go and shoot one. I think it's a great option for any archer out there. Give it a try, and I'll catch you guys next time